Well, finally, there's so many aspects to this misreporting and lack of understanding, but they're going ahead as though they do understand. And this is an example of where that that it says here the precautions, is to wear masks and make sure you wash your hands. Um, so you wash your hands frequently. But down here it says you don't need to wear gloves. Gloves won't prevent this type of transmission. Um, you see, why are you washing your hands if your hands don't transmit? See what I'm saying? This is the kind of stupidity that there's. This is why this whole thing is being so misrepresented. You always wash your hands because of germs, and everybody knows you can transmit from your hands and you can receive from your hands. It's just ridiculous. Now, see, here's another test that they've just come out with, and it says positive tests are highly specific. It says if you test positive, you are very likely to be infected. Particularly here. See, now they don't have a test that can definitively detect coronavirus in its active period. Why don't they just come out and say it? See, they take this information and they go ahead and list it as a case, a reported case, as though they understand something. And what's very peculiar is they also believe they know when the active period of coronavirus, even if it doesn't have symptoms, right, is contagious. And once they have a contagious period that they so designate, even though they don't know when the test shows that it is an active virus. Now, where is the test for when the virus is actively contagious? See, they don't have, right here it says they don't really know. The test is suggestive that, the virus is active. Now, here's something about children I find, very against common sense. The children, weren't spreading the disease. They don't contribute much to the spread of a coronavirus. I mean, you got to be kidding. Everybody knows kids spread viruses, like prairie fire. See, the amount of virus, their viral load, was not correlated with the severity of their symptoms. Well, so, here's something that it doesn't point out about these antigen levels. See, look at this. Finding high amounts of viral genetic material in kids does not prove that kids are infectious. Now, if the amount of genetic material that is detected by molecular testing of any kind doesn't show when people are infective, contagious, why are they telling people that they do know when people are contagious? See, does not prove that children are contagious. This language is just, see, it suggests it may be, and people are going ahead and shutting down entire economies of the frickin' world based on this type of reporting, See, the presence of high viral loads does increase the concern could readily spread the infection to others. This isn't medicine. This is who wrote this, people know more about contagious diseases than this. Why are they doing this? Now, here's the thing about spreading the disease again. You see, it says a person with CV-19 may be contagious 48 to 72 hours before starting to experience symptoms. How do they know that? How do they know when a person's contagious? I don't see there's been any reference to any test that would indicate this kind of thing at all. Yeah, look at this. This is from Harvard. This is a Harvard Health newsletter, thing. May as well be John Hopkins. It all goes to the CDC. Here it is. Here's a statement of fact. Okay, they're stating it as a fact anyway, may be contagious before experiencing symptoms. They must have tested people prior to experiencing symptoms. They don't even have a test for the presence of coronavirus as being active yet, definitively, as you've seen before. One thing it may be that it strongly suggests, and then they say, here is something, the person is contagious before we know it. It's just, now, see, you read this paragraph and you parse the sentences apart, you're saying, these people don't actually know what they're talking about. See, now, here's the deal. They have one group was symptomatic and the other was asymptomatic. Both, though, they must have tested these with antigens. What's their definition then of infected? That both of these tested positive according to the molecular test. Is that what they're talking about here? Because again, it says that this SARS was present, yet we saw earlier that this was not definitively true. But so gone, both groups had similar amounts of viruses in their body throughout the infection. Well, what does this mean? See, what do you mean they had similar amounts of virus? I mean, what quantity? How did they measure this? See, they have made a scientific statement here. They had similar amounts. That indicates, if you're in science, this indicates you've got a beaker with some marks on it, or some kind of an assay device, right? And you've got some numbers associated with this, right? And throughout the infection. Well, what test did they use to indicate that an infection was present? See, what test? As we've seen before, they do not have a definitive test to tell when a person is actively infective, nor there's no place anywhere that there's any reasoning associated with determining when a person is in a contagious period. You see, you would read this, but see, if you start thinking about what these people are saying and they're not saying, and they're double talk and they're non-double talk, and they say this study did not look at the degree to which people with asymptomatic infections may infect others. Well, thank God they made a statement of truth there, because they have no way of telling when somebody is contagious or not. See, I have not seen anything anywhere about a contagious period being scientifically assessed or determined. Yet, even the first cruise ship, they had a quarantine period. They have quarantine periods of self-quarantine. And then you're going to recover. What does it mean to recover? What measurement are they determining? The level of antibodies? The level of antigens? You see. In terms of symptoms, as we've seen, the list of symptoms is totally useless in determining an active, because you could have anything. So this whole disease symptom, you see, it's just, this study provides yet another reason to wear face masks. I don't see that this is true. I don't see that this is true. See, look, they've got people scared here. Look at the people who don't have symptoms, which means anybody. If you're just a normal person, you go walking around and saying, oh, am I going to spread the virus today? I might have it. And spreading, oh my goodness, everybody's suspect now, aren't they? What kind of nonsense is that? What kind of dealing with public information is that? Is to say that the vast majority, as they say, 85% of people do not have any symptoms. So what does that say about all the people who don't have symptoms and then don't have the presence of the virus or the antibodies? See, they've created a broad brushstroke here that strikes fear into everybody under all conditions. Now, this is irresponsible, and the only thing I can think of is this is intentionally done through the auspices of the interbank people because of the money that they are making. And they are specifically making tons of money off the economies being shut down because of Harvard and other studies from Johns Hopkins and garbage from the CDC like this. And you people would read this and think, oh my goodness, this is certainly reasonable stuff, and look, it's all it's telling us to do, and blah. And you can see, if you use any thinking at all about this, it completely falls apart. They've got no measure of contagious period. They've got no measure, actual definitive measure of when people are actively have the disease, if you're going to call it a disease. You could have the disease, as you see, you can have the disease and no symptoms at all. Well, why bother with worrying about something that you've got and you can't tell, and it makes no difference in your life? And you're going to shut down the world economy for that? You've got to be kidding me, folks. My father went to Harvard Med School, and this is bullshit out of Harvard. Now here's something that this is a real scare. People are going to die. It says a second wave reached more than 200,000 related deaths. Now, this is another aspect of mistreatment of this. What is a related death? What is a related death mean exactly? In other words, this goes up on the statistics when you see we've got a 4% death rate for the virus. These are people who are included in that, but it's related. What does it mean by related? You're taking their word for it? Come on. They can't even tell definitively when the virus is active, period, or in the contagious period. But they're talking about people, I don't know. Why don't they list these people? List these deaths, because you see the symptoms of, as you've seen, of this virus are non-lethal. Related deaths could be pneumonia. I have seen that included here. And I've seen other things, included, which there's no indication that's actually as a result of the virus, the related deaths. I think that would be very interesting too. No, I can't accept that this is related. That the 200,000 people died as a result of the virus. When you can tell so little about the virus and the way this reporting, why don't we know more about these people who are these related deaths exactly? Let's look at the mechanics here. And now here's an example under these. This is epidemic, a disease outbreak in a. What do they determine as a disease outbreak? What is an outbreak? I've seen this health club, I believe it was in Canada, where they had 69 people in an outbreak. Well, they didn't say. What do they determine that was an outbreak? The testing positive for the antibodies or the antigens. Saw nothing about symptoms. See, so I don't know. Was this an important thing? They closed the health club down, and an incubation period. As far as the coronavirus 19, considering 85% have no symptoms, how do you know the incubation rate time period for coronavirus, huh? And how do you know when these people were exposed? If they've had no symptoms, and you're going to say, well, they must have been exposed in September because now it's October. So this incubation period for the virus is kind of ridiculous, don't you think? If 85% of people who have the virus, so to speak, or people say they do, then of course there's no definitive antigen test for that. But playing along with these Harvard boys, they want to get their money and be proud, Veritas and all that kind of crap. How do you determine an incubation period for for this virus when you don't know the symptoms even? Now, see, here's another one. The separation of people with a contagious disease. The disease isn't always contagious. How do you know the contagious period? See, this is totally left out in this thing. And see, hand washing, not touching your face, and yet you can touch things in the store. If you can't touch your face and you have to wash your hands, and then you touch the things in the store, it's on your hand. So why wouldn't you be wearing gloves? This is a presumptive positive test result. I think the whole virus is a presumptive test on humanity. when it says a positive test for the virus that causes, are they talking about an antigen test? I mean, come on. You know, some of these tests are symptomatic tests. I mean, I saw one article, CDC was involved, where they had the same symptoms. Well, everybody's got the same symptoms that's on that list. See, and here's a quarantine. Have a contagious disease or symptoms that are consistent with the disease. You know, see now, symptoms consistent with the disease. See now, you could be detained for virtually anything, as you've seen on the list. These 20-odd items that it could be the flu, it could be the cold, it could be influenza, it could be the swine flu, it could be the bird flu, and you saw the number of viruses that are in the bloodstream. I mean, and there must be hundreds of viruses in the bloodstream that we don't even know about. I mean, some could be causing a temporary illness and some not. I mean, the CV-19, the C-19 is, as you saw the list of symptoms, has no application specifically to anything. And so so to say that you get people are getting quarantined now because symptoms are consistent with the coronavirus. Well, look at the number. As I said, one of the things was lesions on the foot are exposed to a contagious disease to see if they become sick. How you quarantine people to see if they become sick with a virus that has 85% of the time has little or no symptoms? What are you talking about here? Okay, let's go. Maybe they're going to do an antigen test. I don't know. But the antigen test, as you know, is not indicative, yes or no, with the presence of infectious disease or in a non-active, or just the active period or the infectious period of the coronavirus, you see? Now, this is Harvard, you know, and they think, and I know when you read this, I know what you're thinking until I start talking about this and examining exactly what we can determine from what Harvard's saying. Now, see, this is interesting, is because this is the virus. A lot of people think this is the virus, right? This is the virus here, and this is kind of like what you call the conditions, okay? And, of course, these conditions may be non-existent. In other words, little or no symptoms, 85% of the people. Little or no conditions in 85% of the people caused by this virus. That's serious. See, here's another thing, is that the aerosols or droplets, they have shown that, I believe it was Italy, that it came to the conclusion that masks were doing nothing, okay? Masks were doing no good at stopping the spread of this virus here. Okay? Well, you know, people are, this is the presumptive ignorance that the medical community has about themselves, about the world population. And that is that it is impossible to stop the spread of viruses. Every year, influenza flu comes back. There are other colds. There are colds just floating in the air. Who knows? They say that, you know, that droplets are aerosols and they have only a certain length of time. They'll be viral in the environment, but you can get a cold in Siberia where nobody's lived for 1,000 years. Okay, literally, the spread of SARS worldwide, of the various cousins and relatives of this, you know, why they mislead the people and perhaps themselves, that there's certain things you just can't do in this world, you know, and you just can't stop the spread of the influenza flu. It mutates. The common flu, I mean, there's so many flus and colds, you just can't stop it, you know. Now, polio is a different thing, you know, but there's some things you just can't do with these things. And why this is kind of like the arrogance of the medical profession and the ignorance of the common man, so to speak, who respects them because they get such an erudite and walk around in suits and stuff, opinion that these people know something what they're talking about. Now, this is interesting. Here's just what I was saying. Look, it says viruses cannot survive without a living cell in which to reproduce. Well, how is it that you can catch all kinds of viruses any place in the world under any conditions at any time of day or night. How did they get there? On a droplet of water that didn't evaporate through 3,000 miles across the equator? See, this is totally ridiculous here, and you think that this is true, but you see, just think, I don't know how these viruses survive, but they sure do, and they do for millennium after millennium. This is, again, this is Harvard. If Harvard can do this, here we go. Here are the experts. Here's your resource center experts. There you go. Got them in alphabetical order. See your name there? Well, I hope not. I'm hoping my name's not there. Holy cow. Well, here's an interesting thing about related deaths, you see. Notice here that they say that may be misclassified because they're similar and because there's no positive test done. And here, because they are similar, they may be classified as something that it isn't. Again, that's the nature of this whole thing. Nobody really knows, but they do want everybody to be upset. Now here is, see, this is says death due to the virus, and then from pneumonia, influenza. Now see, here's an interesting. You want to see the related deaths, how complicated this is. If you want to stop this and read this and see if you want to get into this, but basically, the way they're reporting this as one number. 200,000 deaths in the United States because of the virus and related. Here's one. Excess deaths associated. What does this mean, excess deaths? I mean, it's killer how they're classifying and reclassifying and whatever. So here they say, including deaths that are directly or indirectly attributed to this. 9. Well, I mean, see, here's the thing. What do they mean attributed? I mean, how do you know high blood pressure wasn't present and that wasn't the cause, or diabetes, or kidney disease, or something else? And you see, because the 19 was there, they said it was related. I mean, so here they say some deaths due to the virus may be assigned to other causes because it wasn't diagnosed. The CV wasn't diagnosed. Why do they say that? I mean, this thing has little or no symptoms to begin with. And, they're just getting, splitting hairs there, and I don't think they're getting anywhere. I mean, you see, so complex this is to get into this and disassemble their logic. I mean, this is I think some of these people believe what they're doing, and that's why this has become so convoluted in how they're thinking about this. They're trying to prove that this is something that it isn't, because they're so scared. See, here's this point. Can you believe this? Number was calculated as the difference between the observed count of deaths, presumably, right, and one of two thresholds. See, one of two. Either the average expected count or the upper bound threshold by week in jurisdiction, where the observed count fell below the threshold were set to 0. Do you think the virus really cares about this? Do you think it really matters? Look, it has little to no symptoms. They have not indicated they can tell definitively when it's the active period and when it's not, and they haven't know when it's contagious or not, or the period that it's contagious or not. But look at the involvement they have here with all this death related. They're trying to determine. They've got a lot of people are dying all the time. What is it? The UN says there are over 25,000 people dying of starvation every day. I mean, there's so many people dying every day, and they're trying to explain all these deaths in terms of the coronavirus. or so many of them, right? And don't realize that it doesn't matter whether the virus is present or not in the antigens or the antibodies. People are going to die for various reasons, and the deal is with the present environment, if the coronavirus is there, under any type of test, they're going to attribute it to the virus. That's the nature of the paranoia that's existent right today. See, look at this stuff. Through different graphics, look at all this stuff. They've got more. Look at the amount of money they're spending on this stuff. What does it matter, excess deaths? No, here we go. I like this. From all January 1st. See, it's right before tax time. There's a peak of death right before tax time. See, here's again. Here, look at this. Look, April. There it is, tax time. See? It has nothing to do with the virus. Absolutely nothing to do with the virus. This is an economic, as I said before, has to do with the amount of money the banks are making. Well, that's a fun graph. Look at that. You can play with it. Woo! Woo! Put that down as excess deaths. See, it's above the horizontal line. Excess deaths. Same way here. See? Right there. Excess deaths. It's too many. This should be the normal right here. Deaths here. You imagine, I gave him hell in physics class, wouldn't you believe? Completeness. Oh, boy. Look at this. These updates result in estimates of the total number of excess deaths. This is excess deaths. I don't know what they're talking about there in terms of disease. That were approximately 5% smaller than the previous method. Well, that's good to know. It's good to know. We've got a statistician here. Mortality outcomes. See, it says, this is funny, huh? Many deaths due to the virus may be assigned to other causes of death. Well, considering that this has little or no symptoms, I don't know. It seems to me it should be quite the other way. See, they're trying to implicate the virus, come hell or high water, and nobody can figure out who has the virus yet. You got no tests. Well, I'm getting tired of this, aren't you? As I say, this really boils down to, do you see any evidence around you of the virus? And somebody say, yeah, he was in the hospital. How do you know that the symptoms that he had were from the virus? Given the length of that list, as you've seen, as the CDC says, are symptoms of the virus. If anybody had any symptoms on there, it does not mean they had the virus. Furthermore, if they test positive for the antigen, that does not mean that the symptoms they had are a result of whatever is causing that genetic material of the virus. You understand? In other words, the virus antigen may be there, but the virus may be causing little or no symptoms, but the person may be in the hospital because of symptoms that are on that list, because it's from a different disease. You see, the confusion reigns. Oh, here we are. Look at this. Oh, this is the CDC. How about that? How about, hey guys, fancy meeting you here. Oh my God, excess deaths associated. Oh Jesus. That is a good note to end on, folks. A message. This is straight out of the horse's mouth, the CDC. CDC, come but don't cough.